What is up, everyone? Happy Football Friday. We have another solid weekend of football coming up, starting tonight. Actually, started yesterday with the Thursday night football game and a couple college games as well. So let's get to it here. Last night, Texas State beating up on Troy to get to their first win of the Sun Belt Conference play, 38-17. DJ Kinney has this offense rolling. I know they're only 3-2, but I still believe Texas State has what they need to, especially on offense, to get it done in the Sun Belt and win the conference. It's going to be tough with how JMU's playing in the Eastern Division, but at the very least, Texas State should win the West. Jordan McLeod, 20 of 29, 69%, 252, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, 7 carries, 72 yards, and a rushing score as well. For Troy, they played 2 guys, mostly Tucker Kilcrease, 60.7%, 249, 2 touchdowns, a fumble. Matthew Caldwell also playing just 2 of 4 for 19 yards there. Running back Torrance Burgess Jr., he led the game in rushing for the Bobcats, 12 carries, 85 yards, and a fumble. His teammate Ismail Mahdi, he scored on the ground. Troy wide receiver Landon Parker, he led the game in receiving, 5 for 83. And then receiving touchdowns going to Texas State wide receivers Cole Wilson, Jaden Williams, and Joey Hobert. And Troy wide receivers Devontae Ross and Mojo Dortch on his lone reception there. Defensively, I am going to go with Texas State defensive end Stephen Parker, 6 tackles, all of them solos, 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. Great game by his teammate, also defensive end Jalazon Landry. Bobcats minus 14.5 covered, under 55.5 by the hook. The other game last night in college football, Sam Houston State rolling over UTEP, 41-21. Hunter Watson and this Bearcats offense got off to a slow start. It looked like it was going to be a fast start. And then they kind of boiled out in the first quarter, and the first half was a lot lower scoring than what I and a lot of other people thought it was going to be. But they picked it up in the second half, ran away with it, and got the 20-point win here. But, like I said, Hunter Watson there, 65.5%, 224, 2 touchdowns, 14 carries, 32 yards, and a fumble. For the Miners, it was Cade McConnell the whole game, 53.6%. 204 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and a fumble. Bearcats running back DJ McKinney led the game in rushing. A big night for him, 14 carries, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 catches for 28 yards as well. UTEP got a rushing touchdown by running back Ezel Jolly, and he also did fumble, however. And then Bearcats running back Jay Ducker getting in on the ground as well. UTEP wide receiver Kenny Odom, he led the game in receiving, 4 for 70, and then receiving touchdowns going to his teammate tight end Marcus Vincent, and then for Sam Houston wide receivers Cuevas Humphreys and Michael Phoenix the second getting in the end zone. Defensively, it's got to be the touchdown guy, of course. Sam Houston, defensive lineman Chris Murray had a great game. However, safety Corey Chapman for the Miners there, he scored 6 tackles, a solo, a half a sack, half a tackle for loss, and a 0-yard fumble return, some fumble recovery for a touchdown. Sam Houston, minus 9.5 covers easily, over 49.5, 62. NFL-wise, the 3 games in between the shows here, Monday Night Football doubleheader, Titans beating up on the Dolphins in Miami, 31-12. Tyler Huntley getting his first start for the Dolphins, 63.6%, 96 yards, 8 carries, 40 yards, rushing touchdown, and a fumble. For the Titans, Will Levis, obviously the normal starter, started the game, 3 of 4, 75%, 25 yards, did throw an interception. then got injured on a run to the sideline and was out the rest of the game. Mason Rudolph filled in admirably, 52.9%, only 85 yards, but expect Mason Rudolph to potentially go into this role just like he did last year with the Steelers. Titans running back Tony Pollard led the game in rushing, 12 carries, 88 yards, a touchdown, 2 catches for 20 yards. Tajay Spears also getting in the end zone for Tennessee. Miami wide receiver Jalen Waddle led the game in receiving, 4 for 36 on 6 targets. And then defensively, it was a defensive game, but I'm going to go just with the top guy there, Dolphins linebacker Jordan Brooks, 13 tackles, 9 solos, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, 1 pass defense, and a QB hit. Titans plus 2.5 win outright over 37.5. The other game on Monday night, Lions 42-29 over the Seahawks. Geno Smith, this was a offensive spectacular, kind of like last night was in Thursday night game. Geno Smith, though, career high in passing yards, 395 on 67.9% completion, 1 touchdown, a pick, 5 carries, 38 yards. And Geno, you cost $50 on that pick, man. Was winning 100, 200, and went down to 150 whenever through that game-ending pick. I kept telling all my friends, I was like, yeah, I had visions of, Geno throwing a touchdown to DK, winning a lot more than $200. Anyways, Jared Goff, perfect NFL history, the most completions without throwing an incompletion in NFL history in a game. So 18 for 18, 292, 2 touchdowns, and a 7-yard receiving touchdown as well. Crazy that he did not have a perfect passer rating. That's ridiculous on the NFL's part. Kenneth Walker had himself a game for the Seahawks. 12 carries, 80 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also caught 4 of his 5 targets for 36 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs got into the end zone twice for the Lions, as did David Montgomery. He got in once. Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf led the game in receiving. 100-yard night for him. I needed 6 more yards, DK, though, to hit the one boosted play. 7 receptions on 12 targets for 104 yards and a fumble. Jameson Williams for the Lions caught a touchdown on one of his 2 targets. Jackson Smith and Jigba, big target night for him, 12, caught 8 of those for 51 yards. And then his teammate, tight end A.J. Barner, the rookie out of Michigan, catching a touchdown on one of his 2 targets. Amon-Ra St. Brown, of course, getting in the end zone on one of his 6 targets. And then defensively, I'm going to go with Lions. Corner Carlton Davis III, 7 tackles, 4 solos, 1 tackle for loss, 3 pass defense. Lions minus 4.5 cover, over 47.5. Easily 71 points in this game here. And this one was kind of the same. Falcons last night, 36-30 comeback victory over the Bucs in overtime. It was a complete choke job for Todd Bowles. There was no urgency on the last drive that they had in the game, which it ended up being in the game, but they thought it was going to be the last one just in regulation. There was absolutely no urgency to get yards and get Chase McLaughlin into field goal range to make it a 6-point game instead of a 3-point game. Much more difficult to get a touchdown, obviously, without any timeouts for the Falcons than it would have been to get into Younghoe Koo's field goal range, which is pretty lengthy. So, yeah, I thought that was horrendous decision-making and play calling there on the final drive for Tampa. And also, they were playing pretty soft, obviously. They knew Koo had missed 2 kicks, 1 blocked, and 1 just missed left, but had settled down the rest of the game. So, I don't know. I think it was not a great coaching job by Todd Bowles there. And hence the Bucs are now potentially going to be in 3rd place in the division if the Saints win this weekend against the Chiefs, which we'll talk about on Monday. But Kirk Cousins, Kirko Chains was back, and it is, I guess, officially Kirktober because he absolutely demolished Falcons' record 509 passing yards in this one. 72.4%, 42 of 58. Ridiculous. The amount of times he threw in this game. 509 yards, 4 touchdowns, a pick. Baker Mayfield, 79.2%, 183 touchdowns, 6 carries for 42 yards. Rashad White led the game in rushing. Tampa actually had a ground game in this one for once. 10 carries, 72 yards, 3 receptions for -6 yards. Falcons wide receivers Drake London and Darnell Mooney over 100 yards. This one, London caught 12 of his 13 targets for 154 yards and a touchdown. Darnell Mooney, 16 targets for him, caught 9 for 106, 2 touchdowns for him. And then the guy that won the game, Kadero Hodge for Atlanta, caught a touchdown on the game winner on one of his 2 targets. Mike Evans also getting in the end zone twice on his 7 targets for Tampa, and Sterling Shepard catching one of his 2 targets for a 4-yard touchdown reception. Defensively, I got to go with Bucs defensive end Logan Hall, 2 tackles, both of them solos, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 5 QB hits. Massive night for Logan Hall in the loss. Falcons -2.5 covered, over 43.5, 66 in that game. No breaking news. Let's roll into college football news. Florida State quarterback DJ Uiagalelei, he is out this week. Was hoping that we would, get to see that rematch, him playing his former team in Clemson, and not going to happen. Brock Glenn going to be the starter. DJ probably out a couple weeks with, I believe it's a hand injury. Boston College quarterback Thomas Castellanos, he is set to return this week. Missed last week's game, which BC was able to eke out a 1-point win. But they get their starting quarterback back this week, and the Eagles look to continue to move forward. And for Oklahoma, bad news for them. Wide receiver Nick Anderson, sophomore there, believed to be out several weeks with a hamstring injury, several more weeks. He had returned in week 4, but then he missed last week's game, and now, likely going to be out more weeks. Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce, he was given an 8-year show cause penalty by the NCAA for violations to circumvent COVID-19 recruiting restrictions when he was an assistant at Arizona State, the assistant head coach there. If he would return to college football, he would be suspended for his entire first season. No matter when he would get the job until the show cause penalty ends, which is October 2nd, 2032. So likely will not see Antonio Pierce in college football until then. Also, obviously, bring about recruiting restrictions, scholarship reductions, everything like that. So UFL news, a bunch of teams making moves, getting set for the 2025 season, which we are just under 175 days. I believe it's 174 now today, till the UFL season. Roughnecks, they released quarterback Reed Sinnett, wide receiver Reggie Roberson, and guard Justin Redd as a part of an 8-player exodus there. Re-signings, the Defenders, they re-signed center Michael Maietti, defensive tackle Joe Wallace, defensive end Derek Roberson, linebacker Momo Sonogo, linebacker Farad Gardner, corner Adam Sparks, safety Deontay Anderson, and long snapper Trey Berry. All happy to have all those guys back, especially Big Joe Wallace. Derek Roberson was great on the edge last year, and Sonogo and Gardner good in the middle as well. The Arlington Renegades, they re-signed running back Dede Hunter, wide receiver Isaiah Winstead, tight end Seth Green, defense tackle LeBron Stokes, and linebacker Tuzar Skipper. All mostly important pieces there. The Roughnecks, they re-signed wide receiver TJ Vasher. Showboats re-signing safety Lamont Fatter II. Excellent to have get Fatter back in the fold, McFatter back in the fold there in Memphis for new head coach Ken Whisenhunt. Michigan Panthers, they re-signed running back Nate McCrary after his stint with the Packers in the preseason. The Battlehawks, they signed an interesting one. Bills wide receiver Andy Isabella today, former second-round pick of the Cardinals. Really a solid addition. If we'll see if AJ McCarron returns this year or not. But regardless, whoever's playing quarterback for St. Louis going to have speedy weapon there. 4.3 speed for Isabella. The Stallions, they signed former Jets defensive tackle Perion Winfrey, a former, I believe he was a 4th-round pick of the Browns, coming into the league and only lasted 1 year in Cleveland, went to the Jets last season, not with anyone right now. But Stallions getting him set for the 2025 season. Excellent player there from Oklahoma. And then the Brahmas, they signed running back LaDamian Webb, so explosive player out of South Alabama, undrafted this year. Should be a good player there for San Antonio. NFL news. So the NFL announced it could be playing international games in Ireland, France, and Australia in the future. I can see Ireland, the NCAA college football puts a game on there. I don't know how long that's been going on, but it's been going on for quite a while. The opening game in Ireland there, week 0. But Australia can also see. They have Australian rules football, obviously. And Jordan Mailata, great ambassador for the NFL with the Eagles from Australia. And, of course, all the punters that we have that are Aussie punters. We have a good Australian presence in the league. So I get those. France is a weird one. I just don't see the want in France. I can't see a football game being playing there. I don't know. That's just me. The Raiders, they have informed teams that they will consider trading wide receiver Davante Adams. Obviously, there's a lot to go through right now. He's currently hurt. He's out this week with a hamstring injury once again. They are seeking at least a second-round pick plus additional compensation. And apparently, Davante Adams' top 2 teams are the Jets and the Saints. Obviously, playing with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, he'd like to reunite with him, potentially in New York. And he loves his former Raiders quarterback as well. And Derek Carr is now playing for the Saints. So we'll see either of those teams pull the trigger or if someone else comes out of nowhere and goes for Davante Adams. Bills edge rusher Von Miller has been suspended for 4 games for violating personal conduct policy. So he is out the next 4 weeks. Browns defense tackle Mike Hall Jr. also suspended 5 games for violating the personal conduct policy. However, unlike Von Miller, he only has to sit out this week, and then he can return on Monday, October 7th, because he was on the commissioner's exempt list. So if you're on the commissioner's exempt list, any suspension that you eventually receive from the league is retroactive to the weeks that you were on the list. So he sat out already the first 4 weeks, going to be eligible after this week and return in week 6. The Dolphins, they are going to start Snoop Huntley again this week. No surprise there in Miami. The Broncos, they are going to wear their 70s throwback unis this weekend for their AFC West showdown against the Raiders, and these are what they look like. I enjoy them. I really like the color contrast, the kind of baby blue, kind of powder blue, whatever you want to call it, with the orange there, and then the white mixed in. I think it looks very clean. The big D on it there, the old school Broncos logo. I like it. I'm a fan of these ones. And there's John Elway wearing the originals. But yeah, I enjoy these, and I think they'll be pretty solid looking and lead to a win here for Denver. All right, players of the week here. AFC offense. We had a Ravens running back Derrick Henry, obviously 199-yard performance on Sunday Night Football there against the Bills. Lions quarterback Jared Goff, just mentioned him earlier. Perfect completion percentage on Monday night, leading the Lions to the win. AFC defense, Chiefs defense tackle Chris Jones. paramount in stuffing the Chargers' rushing attack with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards there and leading the Chiefs to a win. NFC defense there. Falcons linebacker Troy Anderson had the incredible pick 6 against the Saints that helped seal that victory there, or helped them get the lead that eventually they came back and won on the coup field goal. AFC special teams, Titans kicker Nick Folk, excellent game for him on Monday night. Was 5 for 5 kicking, I believe. He hit 3 field goals, 2 extra points, I think it was. So great night for him. And then NFC special teams, Bears rookie punter Torrey Taylor continually. I'm blanking on who the Bears played last week. He had over a 50 average there for Chicago and was quite the weapon in pinning back Matthew Stafford and the Rams offense a bunch of times there. Players of the month for September, first month of the year there. AFC offense went to Bills quarterback Josh Allen, led the team to a 3-1 record, and was just lights out, especially in that Monday night game in week 3 against the Jags. NFC offense, Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold. Vikings, one of the 2 teams left that are undefeated, and became the first player in NFL history to lead his team to a 4-0 start, plus pass for 2+ touchdowns in every single game. AFC defense, so I think this is kind of surprising. Ravens linebacker Kyle Van Noy, but he had a great month of September, a bunch of sacks and pressures, even after getting dinged up in the opener with an orbital bone injury. He continued to roll. NFC defense, Lions defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, of course, 5 sacks. 1 week he had 2, 1 week he had 3 in back-to-back weeks there, and continues to be a monster on the field every time he gets out there. AFC special teams went to Steelers kicker Chris Boswell. Obviously, week 1 opened up in Atlanta, beat the Falcons himself, 6 for 6 on the field goals, has made a bunch of other great kicks for Pittsburgh in September, especially from long range. Speaking of long range, NFC special teams player of the month was Cowboys kicker Brandon Aubrey, long range king, and I think the best kicker in the NFL now. Justin Tucker has kind of struggled a little bit to start this year, so I do think Brandon Aubrey is the best kicker in the NFL in only his 2nd season. Guys getting placed on IR. Cowboys defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence with his foot injury. Patriots center David Andrews with his shoulder surgery, and he is out for the year. Dolphins edge rusher Jalen Phillips, knee injury for him, out for the season as well. And, you know, I kind of thought it was a knee injury when I first looked at it, when I first saw the play, because he was on a rush on the right side of the defensive line there and was on a rush, planted, I believe it was his right knee, and then, you know, stopped and started limping from there. So my first initial thought was ACL, because that kind of looked like one of those plant and tear kind of issues. But we'll see what the actual diagnosis is for Phillips, and we will see him in 2025, out for the year. Patriots rookie offensive tackle Caden Wallace. He has an ankle injury. He is out likely 6 weeks there. So yeah, the Ravens have zero, or the Patriots have 0 offensive linemen, no center now, no tackle, who they were already on. You know, the backup, Caden Wallace, was the backup at left tackle. So I have no clue who the Patriots are going to put out there on at tackle. Hurts that the Dolphins are losing Jalen Phillips in this matchup this weekend, but not an issue. I'll talk more about it when we get to that game. However, IR return, practice windows being opened up, and guys getting designated to return. Panthers tight end Ian Thomas and corner Dane Jackson, I believe both were designated to return. Bengals defensive end Miles Murphy definitely was. as were Browns running backs Nick Chubb and Naheem Hines. Commanders quarterback Marcus Mariota. Vikings tight end TJ Hawkinson had his window opened, as did Rams corner Darius Williams. So hopefully, we got some guys, Chubb and Hawk there. Those are two big fantasy names. So I know me specifically, I am looking forward to getting Hawk back for my fantasy team, my dynasty league team. Injuries. Just want to note Saints tight end Taysom Hill. It was announced head coach Dennis Allen saying he does have fractured ribs, so likely going to be out this week. I would expect a decently lengthy recovery for Hill there. Fractured ribs is tough, so I would expect probably 2 to 4 weeks. Ins and outs. Cowboys going to be without wide receiver Brandon Cooks. He's dealing with a knee infection. He is out possibly multiple weeks. Raiders wide receiver Devontae Adams with a hamstring injury. He is out, as is running back Zamir White with a groin injury. Giants rookie wide receiver Malik Neighbors with a concussion. He is out. Texans running back Joe Mixon with an ankle injury. He is not expected to play. Bills wide receiver Khalil Shakir with an ankle injury and defense tackle Ed Oliver with a hamstring injury. They are both out. Dolphins wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. with a knee injury and running back Raheem Mostert with a chest injury. Both could potentially play, and Mostert is expected to play now. Colts running back Jonathan Taylor with a high ankle sprain. Corner Kenny Moore the second with a hip. And defensive end Kwity Paye with a quad injury. They are all out. Browns running back Nick Chubb dealing with his knee. Coming back from that, he is officially listed as out. Giants running back Devin Singletary with a groin injury. He is doubtful. Raiders running back, I already said Zamir White's out. Browns tight end David Njoku with a high ankle sprain. He is questionable. Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson with an oblique injury and center Ryan Kelly with a neck injury are both questionable. Cowboys linebacker Micah Parsons is out. Packers wide receivers Romeo Doubs with a personal matter and Christian Watson with an ankle injury. They are both out. Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp is out as well. Couple releases. The Bengals, they waived punter Brad Robbins. Kind of surprising. A 6th round pick last year. Decent rookie season, but not working out in Cincinnati. Dolphins, they released quarterback Tim Boyle today, so it is Snoop Huntley and Skylar Thompson as the quarterbacks in Miami. Signings here, the Seahawks, they re-signed offensive tackle Jason Peters to their practice squad. Expect him to work up to being activated in a couple weeks. Broncos, they signed Dolphins running back Salvin Ahmed to their practice squad. Panthers signed former Titans first-round corner Caleb Farley to their practice squad. Could get some help for Carolina there. Cowboys signed defensive end KJ Henry off the Bengals practice squad. Cardinals signed Patriots kicker Chad Ryland to their practice squad. Dolphins signing linebacker Tyus Bowser off the Seahawks practice squad. And just one workout to mention, the Packers. They worked out former Rams kicker Lucas Haverson. College football pick standings here. Yeah, Jimmy taking the lead. He continues to lead there over Logan by 2, me by 3. So I think college picks is the most competitive of all our picks that we have here on the FAA podcast. But let's roll through it here. Jimmy last week, I don't believe had any, so I didn't have any lone wolves, but Logan went 3-3. He got Rutgers over Washington on Friday, and then missed Minnesota in a last dash comeback effort there. Michigan beating Minnesota. He lost Oklahoma over Auburn, which is just that's a tough loss there. He got Duke right over UNC in a comeback effort, which was crazy. Alabama over Georgia he got, and then he lost Illinois against Penn State. Jimmy went 2-1. That's why he had the 1-win advantage over both of us last week. Texas A&M over Arkansas, UNLV over Fresno State, and he got Cincinnati wrong against Texas Tech. So we all have at least one this week. And it's not starting off with this one, but Jacksonville State, the Gamecocks, they are going to Kennesaw State to play the Owls. We're all on the Gamecocks here. Yeah, I would expect Jacksonville State to win. I like Kennesaw State's spread, though. I could see them covering this. These are two teams that aren't the greatest, and it's interesting, Kennesaw trying to find that first FBS win. Don't think it's going to come here as a big dog at home. However, I do think they could get one potentially. They got to sneak one out here at some point. Obviously, they're only a third of the way through the season, so 8 more games to go, including this one here. Total is 49.5. I am leaning on the under in this one. 7 p.m. CBS Sportsnet. Houston at TCU. Yeah, I like TCU to cover. I just think TCU's much better offensively. Now, Houston did hold Iowa State to 20 points last week. You know what, though? Iowa State was also favored by 16, and they covered because Houston didn't score a single point. Now, Houston is going to be able to get some movement on this TCU defense, which I don't think is the greatest, but I just expect Josh Hoover and that Horned Frogs offense to be able to move the ball all night and win in this one here. I like the over in this one. This is 51.5 is the total. I'm taking the over. 7:30 ESPN. And this was quite a surprise. I wish I had Logan's analysis on this one, but yeah, did not see this one coming. Logan is lone wolfing Michigan State going into Autzen Stadium against number 6 Oregon. 23.5 point favorites there. Yeah, I don't think so. I think Oregon is probably going to cover. I'm not going to take them just because of what happened last week in pretty much the same line against UCLA. They didn't cover. So even though that was an away game, this is a home game. I just don't think – I can't trust Oregon on the spread right now. But I do think they're going to win the game. Michigan State showed nothing. They got wrecked by Ohio State last week in this same point. Underdog 23.5 was the exact same spread last week against Ohio State. It's Friday night, though. Anything can happen. If it was in East Lansing, I would think about it. But no, it is in Eugene, Oregon. So go Ducks. 51.5 is the total here. I am leaning on the over. Again, something about this game just stinks, so I'm not playing anything here. 9 p.m. on Fox. And the last game tonight, Syracuse at number 25, UNLV. Logan, once again, back-to-back here. 2 out of the 4 Friday night games. Logan is lone wolfing. Yeah, I think UNLV is coming off a high last week, blowing out Fresno State in Vegas there. It's a long trip going from Syracuse, New York to Las Vegas, Nevada. And, Syracuse has looked okay. They got upset by Stanford in the Dome a couple weeks ago. I don't know. I like UNLV. Malik Williams, like I said, he showed a lot, impressed me last week, the Campbell transfer. So I think they're going to be fine. Barry Odom's got these boys rolling, and I think their defense is going to really frustrate Kyle McCord. And if Syracuse is going to have a chance, I think they got to run the ball. LaQuint Allen has to get going for the Orange if they want to have a chance here. But I expect Malik Williams to throw and run the ball around here and come out a winner with the Rebels. Total is 55.5. I am leaning on the over. 9 p.m. FS1. Tomorrow, starting off UCLA at number 7 Penn State. I saw Nick Singleton is going to play in this game after there were some questions of whether he was going to be able to play, but he will go here in Happy Valley. Number 7, Penn State getting 28.5 at home. Lean on that spread. Not completely sure, though. If it was a little lower, I would think about doing it right around 24, but 28.5 is a little too high for me. They could cover that, but not really sure, though. They'll win for sure, definitely. Total is 46.5. I am leaning on the over in that one. Actually, I'm gonna go on the over. That's pretty low. I think Penn State could potentially put up some points against this UCLA defense, and I'm not sure I expect anything from UCLA. That's probably why the total is so low, because Penn State's defense is so good. But I mean, they beat Kent State 56-0, so, or whatever it was. So yeah, I don't know. That was 63. I think it was 63-0. 12 p.m. on Fox, big noon kickoff. Top 25 matchup in College Station. Number 9, Missouri at number 25, Texas A&M. And we are all on the Tigers here. It's really shocking that they are a dog. I understand. Kyle Field's one of the toughest places to play in college football. But I think Missouri's good, especially the offense. The defense, I think, is underrated for Missouri. And I think they're going to cause freshman quarterback Marcel Reed to struggle, make him get a turnover, maybe 2, and the Tigers are going to come out and win this one. I think it's going to be a defensive battle potentially, but Mizzou wins it close there. Total is 48.5. I could see that going under, but I am going to stay away. For me, 12 p.m., ABC and ESPN+. SMU at number 22, Louisville, 6.5 points for the Cards at home. And I could see them covering that. It's a nice, spread right under the touchdown mark there. But I'm going to stay away for it. I think Tyler Schuff was impressive last week, getting the win. SMU is just weird. They're 4-1, but it's a very odd 4-1. I think they have stuck with Kevin Jennings now as their quarterback over Preston Stone. But I just don't know what to think about SMU. So I'm going to go with Louisville here, as does everyone else. Total is 56.5. I think there could be some points in this one, so I'm going to lean on the over. 12 p.m. on ESPN. Boston College at Virginia. Yeah, UVA is a 1-point favorite, though. I don't see them. 1.5 now, actually. I just don't see them winning this game. Not with Thomas Castellanos back at quarterback for Boston College. I know they struggled a little bit with Grayson James, the FIU transfer at quarterback last week. I've been playing against UVA most of the year and all the Virginia schools, really. But I just cannot pick against Boston College. Bill O'Brien has the Eagles playing great ball. Even with the backup quarterback last week, they still got the win. I'm going to go with BC, even though it's a road game. Tough one to go to Virginia there. Charlottesville. Total is 52.5. I like the under 52.5. And, of course, like I said, BC money line. 12 p.m. ACC Network. Another ACC battle here. Pitt at North Carolina. And, yeah, I'm going with the heels here. Give me Mac Brown. Everyone's down on UNC right now. Everyone's down. They got boat raced by JMU a couple weeks ago, 70-50. They allowed Duke to score 21 unanswered last week to win the game. But I think this is the one they get. Got an undefeated Pitt team coming in. They're playing. They're riding high. Everyone's telling them they're so great. No. This is the one that Mac Brown needs to get done. Omarion Hampton needs to run the ball. They have offense with Jacoby Criswell. They can play some good ball. They need to play it well this week in Chapel Hill, upset Pittsburgh at home, and stay in the ACC race because it's a tough slog right now. We're getting into October now, and teams are you're starting to see kind of, all right, what is the hierarchy of each conference right now, and where are we looking at college football playoff bowl games and whatnot. I think North Carolina needs this win to stay in the conversation, and like I said, I think they're going to get it. Upset Pitt at home. 63.5 is the total here. I lean on the over. That's a lot of points, but I could see it going over. 12 p.m. on ESPN2. Navy at Air Force. How far have we come that Navy and Army are undefeated? 4-0 apiece. Anyways, we are all on the midshipmen here. It is a very difficult game. Anytime you're playing, another armed forces school, you don't know what's going to happen. Air Force has not been the team that they've had in the past. And Navy has really surprised me. I watched them play against, I think it was Temple the other week, 2 weeks ago on Friday night. And, they absolutely showed out passing and running. So I would not be shocked. I like Navy. And I'm going to go so far as to pick Navy on the spread here. I like Navy. They're a good team. Total is 36.5. I'm leaning on the over. That's a deceptive one. I don't know. I don't know why that's deceptive, but yeah. Oh, maybe actually no. It was Army that I saw roll over Temple a couple weeks ago. 12 p.m. CBS and Paramount Plus. Speaking of the Black Knights here, Army 12.5-point favorites at Tulsa. Army's been putting up some points, guys. And Tulsa has the capabilities just because of their offensive scheme. But I think Army definitely is going to win this one. Don't know by how much. I'm not taking them on the spread. I know Tulsa is not a great team, but you never know. This is Army's first year in the American, so they don't have necessarily all the scouting reports that they need historic-wise for the other teams in the conference. But I like Army, as does everyone else. 50.5 is the total here. I am staying away from that one. 12 p.m. ESPNU. Big Ten matchup, Iowa at number 3, Ohio State, 18.5. It's gone down. It was 20.5, and now it's down to 18.5. I think the Buckeyes definitely going to win this game. It's going to be interesting to see how Iowa can play them, Phil Parker's defense. But I think it's going to be a defensive battle here. Ohio State wins it by a couple scores. Not 3, though. I think Iowa does potentially cover this one. So staying away from that. 45.5 is the total. God, I wish it was in the 50s because I would scream over or under. But 45.5 is a tough one. Not going to play anything on that. 3:30 SEC or Big Ten on CBS and Paramount Plus. Good old-fashioned, Auburn at number 5, Georgia. Go Dogs. Georgia coming off the loss at Tuscaloosa. Look, I don't think it's going to matter. Georgia's going to win this one. They don't need to make a statement. Like a lot of times I would say a team coming off a loss like that, they would need to make a statement, absolutely just demolish the other team. Georgia's going to want to because it's a rivalry game. However, I don't think they need to because they're Georgia, right? That was their first loss in the last 43 regular season games for the Dogs. So I think they're going to win. We all think that. The spread, I think, is tough. I don't think they're going to cover that. So lean Auburn plus 22. It was 24 earlier. It's probably a lot better line. 52.5 is the total. I am going to lean on the under. 3:30 on ABC and ESPN Plus. Number 12, Ole Miss, the Rebels on the road in Columbia, South Carolina at the Gamecocks of South Carolina. 9.5 for the Rebels here, and I'm leaning on that one. They disappointed very much last week in a home game against Kentucky. So there are a lot of question marks with the Rebels. And like I was talking about Georgia, this is probably a game that Ole Miss wants to make a statement, to say they should be back in the top 10 and just demolish South Carolina, who, no Lenora Sellers, I believe, still. So I think Ole Miss wins probably handily, but it's a question mark for me of whether they'll cover that or not. 53.5 is the total. I like the over 53.5. 3:30 on ESPN. Number 23, Indiana, 14-point favorites at Northwestern. Go Hoosiers. This is a sneaky game. I'm not sure what to pick here. I'm staying away from the spread on Indiana. Northwestern's I don't know. There's something about the Wildcats that they could be tricky, especially on the lake there. The total is 41.5. I do like the over, though. Indiana has been scoring a lot of points, and if Northwestern can score a little bit, let's take the over in that one. 3:30 Big Ten Network. Another Big Ten matchup: Rutgers at Nebraska, going to Lincoln. 6.5 points for the Huskers coming off the bye. I really like Nebraska. They had a tough game their last time out 2 weeks ago against Illinois. But I do think they're going to win. Rutgers on the road is a lot different team, and I really don't think it's that difficult to stop Rutgers. If you shut down Kyle Monangai, I don't believe Ethan Kaliakmanis can beat you with his arm. So I think that's got to be the game plan for Matt Rule and co. And I think Nebraska gets the win. Rutgers probably covers, though. One score affair. 40.5 is a total. I lean on the over. 4 p.m. on FS1. Number 1, Alabama at Vanderbilt. And this is a trap game for sure. Alabama's coming off a high win against Georgia. And now they got to go to Nashville to play the Commodores. 2-2. Vandy, they have been feisty this year. Diego Pavia, they got a lot of other New Mexico State transfers in for Clark Lee's squad. I just think there's something about Vandy. I would lean on the spread for the Commodores here. 53.5 is a total. I like the over in that game. 4:15 SEC Network. ACC matchup number 15 Clemson at Florida State. Mentioned DJ Uiagalelei not going to be playing for FSU, so I would expect Clemson to win this one handily, because FSU has not been very good, and I'm buying the half a point to get Clemson minus 14. I know FSU beat Cal as their only win. Cal's a good team, but Clemson has been demolishing people the last 2 weeks. So expect Tigers to win handily here in Tallahassee. Total is 46.5. I would lean on the over. 7 p.m. on ESPN. Utah State at number 21, Boise State. The Broncos 27 on the at home here on the blue turf. I expect them to win and win easily. Don't know if they're going to cover 4 touchdowns. That's very difficult in a conference battle. But total 65.5. I also don't really like that. That's a lot of points. I'm not playing that either. 7 p.m. FS2. JMU on the road at UL Monroe, and UL Monroe, surprisingly, the Warhawks are 3-1, but JMU has been crushing people. 16-point favorites for the Dukes on the road. They could cover that. I don't know, but definitely JMU should be able to win this one easily. 48.5 is the total. I am leaning on the over on that one. 7 p.m. ESPNU. Number 4, Tennessee in Fayetteville. Play the Razorbacks. Arkansas, a very disappointing game at AT&T Stadium last week against Texas A&M. Now all they have to do is come back home and play the number 4 team in the country. Yeah, Nico Iamaleava has been spectacular. The defense, the running game has been awesome as well. I just don't think there's anything that this Hogs defense can do to stop them. So I like Tennessee potentially to cover. Not going to play it though. 56.5 is a total. Lean on the over for that one. 7:30 ABC and ESPN Plus. Number 10, Michigan, all the way to Seattle to play Washington, and Logan doing his thing once again. Again, it's crazy that the number 10 team in the country has to be lone wolf and is an underdog going into the Huskies here. 1.5 points for Washington at home, and I like that. Not going to play it though, just because it's you never know. But Michigan, it'll be interesting to see if their stuff travels. The running attack, the defense. I just think I think Washington showed a lot on last Friday, that they have the pieces to potentially play in the Big Ten. They've got a good running game with Arizona transfer Jonah Coleman at running back. Will Rogers has been pretty solid at quarterback. And they have the defense, I think, to play up to the Big Ten standards. So, again, I don't think it's a very difficult game plan. It's kind of like what I said with Rutgers. Like, you stop Donovan Edwards, you stop Kalel Mullings and the Michigan running attack. Alex Orji's not going to beat you throwing the ball. So, especially with the secondary players Washington has. So, total is 41.5. I would lean on the under. 7:30 NBC on Peacock. Number 11 USC at Minnesota. Trojans getting 8.5 on the road. I would lean on that spread. I'm not totally confident in it, but they should have the capabilities to beat Minnesota by 9. Really impressed by Miller Moss so far. They got the one loss on the road at the Big House, which was a tough one, but I have not been a big believer in Minnesota. They did have the comeback last week to get it to a 3-point game at the end against Michigan, but not confident in PJ Fleck's squad at all. Total is 49.5. I am leaning on the under. 7:30 Big Ten Network. Baylor at number 16 Iowa State. Iowa State, great win last week, 20-0 over Houston. Now they come back home. They are home once again. 11-point favorites here. They could cover that, but I'm not going to play it there. I like Iowa State to win this one. Baylor has been tricky this year, up and down with Sawyer Robertson at quarterback, but I like Rocco Becht, Abu Sama, Jaden Higgins in the squad there for the Cyclones. 44.5 is the total here, and I would lean on the under. 7:30 on Fox. Duke at Georgia Tech. I am going with the Yellow Jackets at home here. 8.5-point favorites. Crazy 5-0 team. However, I really like Georgia Tech. Brent Key has a team that is feisty, that is tough. And while Duke plays really good defense under new head coach Manny Diaz, I just don't think they have the offense to break through this Yellow Jackets defense, nor do I think Malik Murphy can win if asked to come back in the game. So, although they did that last week, that was against North Carolina that doesn't have as good of a defense as Georgia Tech does. I think Tech wins in Atlanta here. Duke probably covers, though. 52.5 is the total. I am leaning on the under. 8 p.m. ACC Network. Number 8, Miami. 10-point favorites on the road at Cal. Pretty long trip, Miami to Berkeley. And yeah, I am going with the Cal Bears at home to upset the number 8 team in the country. almost as crazy as Logan tonight with his Michigan State against Oregon, but at least that one that's even crazier because Oregon is at home. But look, I like this Cal team. They are tough defense. They are one of the best turnover defenses in the country, and offensively, it's been quite a slog for Fernando Mendoza at quarterback. But Jaden Ott returns and is healthier, the All-Star freshman or sophomore running back, or junior running back, I should say. He's going to be healthier for this one. I think they can get the running game going and keep Cam Ward off the field. When he is on the field, do exactly what Virginia Tech did last week. Get a turnover or two against Cam Ward, make him work for it, and Cal gets this one late. Total is 53.5, and I am leaning on the under. 10:30 on ESPN. ACC after dark. Cal upsets Miami. That's what you're going to wake up to on Sunday morning. And a third one in a row here for me. Texas at Arizona. Yeah, I'm rolling with the Red Raiders. Went with them last week against Cincinnati when Jimmy Lone Wolf the Bearcats. I like Texas Tech on the road. I'm going to buy the points to get me to +7. I have no clue what Arizona's been doing. You know, they look fantastic one week. They looked fantastic last week in a 13-point win at number 10 Utah. But Texas Tech, despite getting 41 scored on them last week against Cincinnati, they did win by 3. I just think Texas Tech has the offense, and I think could potentially be a shootout. Arizona, I think, has the better defense. But I like the Red Raiders to get it done on the road. I don't know what this Arizona team is other than Noah Fafita and Tetroa McMillan. And the Red Raiders can run the ball for sure. Taj Brooks at running back. He's been excellent. So, yeah, I think they can win this game here, even on the road in Tempe. Or not in Tempe. I'm blanking on where Arizona plays. Arizona State plays in Tempe. 64.5 is the total here. I'm leaning on the under. 11 p.m. on Fox. And our FCS game of the week, it is a top 10 showdown. Number 7, North Dakota. It is also the battle for North Dakota. That's not the actual name of the rivalry. I don't know it. I'm just making stuff up. At number 2, North Dakota State, though, the Bison, 14.5 points at the Fargo Dome. And North Dakota has a great win this week. They upset Montana a couple weeks ago. But Jimmy, this is Jimmy's lone week on the FCS game, which usually we're all kind of together on that one. But Jimmy's rolling out. He is going with the Skyhawks here of North Dakota, and Logan and I, we are on the Bison. It's like death, taxes, and the Bison, all things you can count on, right? So 59.5 is the total. I think there could be some fireworks, but I'm going to go lean on the under here. It's a rivalry game. 3:30 on ESPN on Saturday. ESPN Plus. NFL pick standings. Yeah, it's been rough for me. The last 2 weeks have been very odd in the NFL. It's been a lot of underdogs winning and some crazy stuff going down. But Jimmy is leading it, and we are all still over 500, surprisingly, even though back-to-back not great weeks. But Jimmy is leading John by 1 based off last week's totals. He leads Logan by 2 and myself by 3. So it's actually pretty close, just like the college standings. And last week, in terms of lone wolves, Logan was the only one that had them. He had 3, went 1-2, lost the Packers against the Vikings, the Saints against the Falcons, and he got the Ravens right on Sunday night against the Bills. Jimmy and I, the only 2 people to have lone wolves this week. Let's see what we got. London, the first London game this year, Jets at the Vikings. No one is picking Aaron Rodgers to play the Vikings. We are all on Sam Darnold and the Purple People Eaters here. 2.5 points for the Vikes as the home team. And yeah, I just think Brian Flores has his defense playing outstanding ball. And I think they're going to frustrate Aaron Rodgers. He's also coming into this one dinged up. I know he's good to go, he said, but does have an ankle designation this week. So, I would not be surprised if the Vikings try to make him move, make him get off, off balance and throw from outside the pocket. So, Vikes win though. Total here is 40.5. I would lean on the under, and 9:30 a.m. NFL Network. Panthers at the Bears, split decision here. Bears getting 4 points at home at Soldier Field. I was there for this game last year. It was a Thursday night game. Amir Smith-Marset returned a punt for a touchdown to get the Panthers up 7-0. However, the Bears came back and won the game eventually. It was a close one throughout, though. So potentially going to be close again this week. I don't know, though. It's going to be interesting to see if Caleb Williams can get through this defense. That isn't very good for Carolina. They just lost Shaq Thompson. They don't have Josie Jewell. He has a hamstring injury. So the middle of this defense without Derek Brown, Jewell, and Thompson, and then add in Jordan Fuller on the back end is injured as well. So the middle of the defense should provide DeAndre Swift for a lot of running room, just like he did last week when they beat the Rams. I think they should lean on the run here just to take pressure off Caleb Williams is one thing, but they should have success as well against Carolina. That has not been a good rush defense this season. Also, I think Caleb Williams will be able to pass the ball. Joe Burrow and squad were able to do it last week. Comparable receivers for Chicago. So would not be shocked if the Bears win and win handily. Jimmy and Logan on the Panthers. John and I on the Bears. That's usually how it goes. John and I are against Jimmy and Logan. And John, we do not have a great record. I think we're 0-2. So not great so far. We got to get this one here, even though I'm picking against my own team. But Andy Dalton, tough test against that Chicago defense. So I like Chicago -4. Total is 41.5. I am leaning on the under. Ravens, AFC North matchup, 2.5-point favorites at the Bengals. Kind of surprised we were all on the Ravens, but why wouldn't we be after that Sunday night performance this past week? I don't think it's going to be that with this one. The Bengals are getting Myles Murphy back and McKinley Jackson, defense tackle. So those are two guys that'll help stop the run up front. But the Bengals defensively have not been very good. They weren't even that great against Carolina last week, allowed Andy Dalton to throw for a good bit, and Chuba Hubbard ran wild on them. So would expect the Bears or the Ravens to win this one and cover here. They can win it by 3 for sure. Even though it is in Cincinnati, it is a rivalry game. The Ravens are just the better team right now because they have an offense and a defense. Bengals just really only have an offense. 49.5 is the total. I am leaning on the under again. It's a AFC North rivalry game, so would not be shocked with the under. Colts at the Jags. Another split here, but it's a different split. Logan and I are together. John asked me who is crazy enough to bet on the Jags right now, and I gave him the hand raised emoji, and he said crazy. And then I got Logan's picks, and he was picking Jacksonville as well. Yeah, I think this is a good pick for Logan and I. Like, it has to come eventually for the Jags. Potentially no Anthony Richardson for Indianapolis. Even if A-Rich plays, no Jonathan Taylor's a massive loss for Indy. Potentially no Ryan Kelly as well, even though Tanner Bortolini did play well against Pittsburgh last weekend. I just think it all sets up pretty well for Jacksonville. Travis Etienne is going to play in this one. The Lawrence to Kirk connection has been heating up the last 2 games, so I do expect that to continue. He's got a good repertoire with Brian Thomas as well. It's just they have to protect Trevor. Like, you have to protect him. So that's the number one thing to do. And then defensively, I think they got to focus more on stopping the pass with either Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco really ate up the Steelers' secondary last week, and the Jags banged up on the back end anyways. So I think I would focus on stopping the pass, and I think they potentially could have enough guys play the run there to stop much less talented player in Trey Sermon than Jonathan Taylor. However, I don't know if the Jags are going to cover. It's going to be close. Total is 45.5. I lean on the over. Dolphins at the Patriots. My first lone wolf in this week. Yeah. I'm still shocked the Patriots are favored. I would not be shocked if the line closes with Miami being favored. But look, I mean, this is – I don't even know. This is probably going to be the worst game, one of the worst games of the season, potentially. But look, Snoop Huntley didn't play badly against Tennessee. It was a tough one for him because he had literally just gotten there. So I think with a whole week of preparation like he's going to be getting this week, I think he'll be more prepared. It's a tough road game in Foxborough, but I cannot trust the Patriots. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, he has been turning the ball over. He did it last week. And they're now potentially pivoting to get Antonio Gibson as the starting running back over Ramondre Stevenson because Stevenson's fumbled in each game so far this season. They also lost their starting center in David Andrews. They lost 2 tackles. They don't really have a passing game. They don't have the receivers really to throw to. So I just don't know how the Patriots are going to score points. The defense has still been playing pretty well. But I do think they're going to struggle against the mobile quarterback in Snoop Huntley. And I think Devon Achane is going to have a decent day getting the running game going with the read option style for Huntley. And yeah, I mean, it's always tough to stop Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So, and potentially Odell Beckham Jr. could play in this one as well. So Raheem Mostert also being back is a boost for the Miami offense. Defensively, it's tough for Jalen Phillips being done for the year. But they do still have, I believe Bradley Chubb is back. I think. I can't remember. But they do still have guys. They have Zach Sealer up front. They have Jordan Brooks in the middle of the linebacker there. And they have Jalen Ramsey, of course, on the outside to cover whatever receivers they want to throw out there. So I like Miami. I think they can get the win and be a big boost to the team morale here. Total is 36.5. Yeah, it could go under that, but I am not going to play. That's a little trappy for me. Browns at the Commanders. Washington 3.5 at home here. And yeah, I mean, I like Washington. And, you know, they have been crushing people, like demolishing Bengals, Cardinals last 2 weeks. So, yeah, I would not be surprised if they cover this. Browns, it's going to be a tough out. I do think Cleveland has a chance, though. The Washington defense, it still has not been great, even though they shut down Kyler Murray very well last week. But the Cleveland defense is also not terrible, despite, giving up the lead to Las Vegas last week. I don't know. I think it's going to be closer than people think, but I do like Washington to win it here. 43.5 is the total, and I am going to go with lean on the under. Bills at the Texans. Hell yeah, Lone Wolf on Houston. I'm down with that. They're at NRT Stadium in Houston, so it's a home game, and unfortunately, this was my dog, but it got flipped on the spread today. It was Bills -1. It's flipped all the way to Texans -1 now, so they are the favorite at home. And I'm taking it. I love Houston. I think their defense. They have the better defense of the two teams, especially Novon Miller on the Bills side now. So, and Houston offensively, I think, is the best unit on the field. So, give me Houston, and I think that they're going to force Josh Allen to run the ball a lot because they're going to have to. The Bills really don't have the receivers. No Ed Oliver for Buffalo as well. No Khalil Shakir on offense. So it's going to be a struggle for Buffalo, and I think Houston drops the Bills to their second loss in a row. 47.5 is the total. I lean on the over. 405 slate here. The Raiders at the Broncos. Jimmy, rolling with the Raiders. Yeah, this was a tough game for me to pick. Just looking at the Raiders getting a good comeback, 10-point comeback win over the Browns last week. The Broncos, they have been solid. 2 straight wins for Coach Payton's squad there. And Bo Nix, while he's not playing the greatest, I'm putting my faith in this Denver defense. The Raiders are without Zamir White and Devontae Adams in this one. I haven't heard Max Crosby, whether he's in or out on this. But the defense that they have right now, Vance Joseph's got these boys playing very well. So I am banking on that Denver defense to stifle Alexander Madison in that running game and Gardner Minshew in the passing game without Adams at wideout. Total is 35.5. Leaning on the under. Cardinals at the Niners. Yeah, the Niners, 7-point favorites at home. Needed the win last week against New England. Cardinals are struggling right now. I mean, it's been back-to-back games where they have just fallen flat on offense. So they need to get Marvin Harrison rolling. They need Trey McBride back as well, which I think he will be back this week. I'm not exactly sure, but those are 2 things that they really need. So if they can get those, they'll have a chance to potentially cover. It's an NFC West matchup, but I do still like the 49ers. They have been absolutely dynamite despite 2-2 record here. So going to go with them. Lean on the Cardinals spread, though. Total is 49.5. I am leaning on the under. Actually, I'm going to go with the under because the 49ers defense. 425 slate the Packers at the Rams. Jimmy is being NFC hater on the Packers. I mean, it was just a very tough loss for LA last week. I think they got manhandled really against the Bears defense. Not saying they're going to do that this week in a home game against Green Bay because Green Bay's defense is decent under Jeff Hafley in year 1, but not as good as Chicago right now. So I think that Green Bay, another, rehab week for Jordan Love after a tough outing last week against Minnesota. It's not as tough of a defense as tough of a defense. I think that Josh Jacobs should have a good day. We saw DeAndre Swift run for 90 yards last week against LA's defense. And I just think Matthew Stafford is really missing these guys. Cooper Kupp already announced out. Obviously, Puka Nacua is on IR. He does still have Kyron Williams. He does still have some other guys, but it's going to be tough for the Packers as well with no Christian Watson, no Romeo Doubs. But like I said, run the ball with Josh Jacobs. You got some other guys, Dontavian Wicks, Tucker Kraft at tight end as well. So Jaden Reed. 48.5 here is the total. I am going to go with lean on the under. And the last 425 slate here, Giants at the Seahawks. Leaning on the Giants +7. They played a really good game on Thursday against Dallas, but it's not great. Devin Singletary is doubtful, so potentially Tyrone Tracy's first start in his rookie year. The Seahawks have been dynamite offensively. They were in Detroit despite losing. And their defense, I think, is going to make it tough on Daniel Jones all day. So give me Seattle. Everyone else is on Seahawks as well. Total's 42.5. I am leaning on the under. Sunday Night Football, Cowboys at the Steelers, a historic rivalry. Pittsburgh getting 2.5, and I like it. Give me the Steelers 2.5. I think they're coming off a very difficult game. First loss of the year in Indianapolis, a game that they maybe should have won if they wouldn't have had that botched fumble there at the end to set them back very far behind the chains. But yeah, I think this defense kind of an outlier performance against Jonathan Taylor last week. The Cowboys do not have the ability to run the ball like that. And they weren't able to run it like that against the Giants last week, despite the win and despite good performances for Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott. But they still can't run the ball efficiently. I think the Steelers, on the other hand, will be able to run the ball efficiently. Cowboys are one of the worst teams in run defense, one of the worst defenses overall, and they lost their two best defensive players, DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. So up front, it's going to be very difficult for the Cowboys to stop Justin Fields' rushing attack with Najee Harris and Cordell Patterson. And I think in the passing game, it's going to be tougher. Obviously, Trayvon Diggs versus George Pickens, but we'll see if they can cover Pat Freiermuth, because that's a big issue without Micah Parsons there to potentially cover him. So total is 43.5. I am leaning on the under. 820 NBC and Peacock. Best bets of the week here. Yeah, I'm rolling with the Ravens -2.5 at the Bengals. I do think that's going to be a good game. But I think Baltimore is just the better overall team. I'm not sure what I'm going to get with Cincinnati's defense. So give me the Ravens -2.5. Staying in Maryland, we're going to go to Washington and -3 against the Browns. I think that's a decent spread here for Washington to at least push. But Cleveland offensively, there's a lot of question marks still offensively with Cleveland. And defensively, will they be able to stop Jaden Daniels? I'm not so sure. So I like Washington -3. And the Packers -3 as well at the Rams. I think it's a tough road test there, but with what the Rams showed me against a difficult defense last week against Chicago, I think Jeff Hafley's going to put a good game plan together on that side of the ball. Run the ball with Josh Jacobs, and get out of LA with at least 3-point victory to push me. Lock standings. Jimmy rolling right now, 3-1. He's ahead of John and I by 1, and Logan by 2 is in the cellar. Last week's lock picks here. Oh, by the way, best bets last week. Back-to-back weeks, 1 and 2. I lost the Steelers -1.5 at the Colts. Got the Vikings +3 at the Packers, right? They won outright. And the Bills +2.5 at the Ravens. Did not work out at all. Last week, locks here. Logan got the Jets wrong. Oh, man, he hates Greg Zuerlein for sure because he would have had that one. I got the Steelers wrong, as you know, Justin Fields tough trying to come all the way back after being down 17. And then Jimmy and John, they were both on the Texans getting a close victory over the Jags last week. So this week, here we go. Logan's being a homer. He is going with his Packers at the Rams. No fault there. We all, except Jimmy, lone wolf that one. So we all, John and Logan and I picked Packers though. So I'm with Logan on that one. I am on the Commanders. We all picked Washington. Hopefully it's not a trap game against Cleveland. But I think Jaden Daniels is playing well enough that Washington defense can get just enough stops and get the win at home. Jimmy and John, they are hip to hip again. They are going with John's Seahawks to beat the Giants in Seattle. 7-point favorites there. No surprise on that one. Dog standings. Logan continues to be sterling. 2-0 last week. He is 6-2. He is ahead of me by 1.5, I think that is. And Jimmy, he is ahead by 2. John needs to get it right this week. He is down 1-7. He is down by 5 in the pick standings. Last week for the dogs, Logan, the only one to get a win, the only one to get a cover as well. He had the Bucks plus 2.5 against the Eagles. I had the Rams plus 3 at the Bears. They, as did John, and they were, they had it. Like they were on covering most of the game and let it slip away to a 6-point loss last week. And Jimmy, he had my best bet last week, plus the Bills plus 2.5 at the Ravens. That did not work out at all. So here we go. This week, Logan and Jimmy together. They are on the Panthers plus 4 at the Bears. I like the Bears to cover the spread. So unfortunately, Jimmy and Logan, you are done. John and I, we're on Chicago anyways. So I am going with the Dolphins because they're the only underdog that I picked this week because the Texans are now a favorite. Less confident about Miami than I was Houston, but let's go Fins. Snoop Huntley, get it done in Foxborough, plus 1 at the Patriots. And then Johnny is going with the Colts as a dog. Him and Jimmy are split with Logan and I on that game. They're on the Colts. We're on the Jags. John going plus 3 with the Indy at Jacksonville. And that is the show for today. Week 6 next week. We'll get you all your game recaps, game previews, exciting times. Second month of football. And I think it was yesterday that someone said, I think it was Field Yates, we have 55 straight days now of football between college and NFL. So it's a great time. Great time to be in the space. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and X, FAA_bets on X as well. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Instagram, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and we will see y'all back on Monday.